Before we get started, a huge shout out to Spider Farmer. Today's episode is brought to you by the SF1000, Spider Farmer's latest release. If you're on a budget and you're looking for a great budget-friendly light, consider the SF1000. For less than $100, you can get a powerful light for a 2x2 flower coverage or a 3x3 veg tent. The SF1000 is introducing the Samsung LM301H EVO LEDs, boasting an impressive efficacy rate of 3.14 micromoles per joule per diode. These LEDs outshine even the renowned LM301Bs, the LM301Hs, and the Bridgelux 3030 chip. If you're looking for one of these lights, go to spider-farmer.com, use promo code PIGEONS420, save yourself a few dollars off at checkout, and get yourself some great budget-friendly, high-quality gear. And of course, this stream is also brought to you by AC Infinity. AC Infinity has got a quality name when it comes to products for your garden. Whether it's an inline fan or the Controller Pro 69, they've got you covered. They've got a controller that's going to communicate between all of their devices. From the humidifier to the clip-on fans, regulate everything accurately with the Controller Pro 69. If you go to acinfinity.com, use promo code PIGEONS420, you can get some quality equipment for a quality price. Get the equipment that your plants are going to need and grow some incredible dank. Thank you, AC Infinity.
Genetics right now is a hot conversation, and it's one that I think is always important because it is a very exciting time in the world of genetics today. And it's safe to say that there's a few things that you want to take into consideration before, because it can be hard to not only source good genetics, but it can be difficult to kind of find who's giving you quality genetics. And that's something that I wanted to talk about. So I wrote down a list here. And of course, as I mentioned, I want you to familiarize yourself with local laws and ordinances. Are you able to grow? Are you able to clone? Are you able to buy? Are you able to sell? Are you able to distribute? Can you possess? How close do you have to be to a school? Or can you be close to a school? How close do you have to be away from a dispensary or a liquor store? Are these things that you need to take into consideration? Because it's very important to know this before you choose any genetics. Source. Choose a quality source. People ask me all the time, Pigeons, how do I get some quality genetics? And in fact, last night, someone asked me, Pigeons, where do I go locally to meet up with people? Well, you know what? There's a lot of forums. There's Facebook pages that you can go on where you can source local genetics, and you can find groups that you can join. And I highly encourage you to do that. I do, because not only are you going to find quality genetics, you're also going to be able to source out some quality people. Network is net worth. And if you can establish a quality network of other breeders, let me tell you, your job is going to be a lot easier in the garden, because you don't have to worry about, the one-off variables, the disease, the prone to pests, those kind of things. How's it going to grow? Find that source, and then find that specific strain or that cultivar that's going to meet your needs. We've already talked about how to find genetics that are good for your grow, so you can tune into those videos. But of course, you want to find something that's going to match your humidity or your climate. Do you have high humidity, low humidity? Are you in a middle of winter? Is it the summer? Is it hot? Is it cold? These are very important things to consider before you choose your strain. Strain selection is huge, but you want to make sure that you're understanding your own climate and environment before you select your genetics. Space. This is a big mistake. Don't go buy a bunch of beans before you have a space to plant them in. I think that's huge. You want to make sure that you've got yourself established. I personally like to treat my tent like a fish tank. I like to acclimate it before I put any plants in it, and give it a minute. Give it a day, give it 2 days, give it an opportunity for the lights to come on and run all night, and then give it an opportunity for the lights to go off or on, and whatever I just said, and do the opposite and let it run all day and run all night. This way you get an idea what your swings are. You want to be able to understand your swings so there's no surprises. So get your space ready and functional. How are you going to grow it? From the Stash and I. Huge shout out to the boys on From the Stash. We actually just had a conversation not long ago in regards to choosing the right genetics and choosing the right genetics. That's the conversation I have right now. Which cultivation method is the best? I based my answer on simplicity, Rob and Chris based theirs on what they had already known, based on their knowledge and based on their experiences. I wanted something that worked for me, something that was just simple. So I choose a soilless medium in fabric pots using salt-based nutrients out of the bottle. You can choose to go like an organic route, whether it's a build-a-soil route, whether it's a hydroponic setup. You're going to want to know this before because it might be different for you. Okay, it might be different for you. Maybe you don't want to do a hydroponic setup. I personally didn't want to figure out how to work pumps and all that nonsense. So I didn't. I just put dirt in a pot and planted a bean. What are you looking for? Growth time, baby, and yield. You want to understand how long you're growing these plants. I've done it. I grew a Maui Wowie. It was frustrating. Took me 13 weeks. I'll never do it again. Why? Because I didn't know it was 13 weeks before I started growing it. Oh, that was frustrating. I was treating it like everything else. And unfortunately, it didn't work for me like that. I had to essentially keep her going in the garden for a couple more weeks. And it was frustrating, very frustrating, because I just couldn't handle having something grow that long. So I told myself, unless it's a GMO, I'm not doing it. Okay? Because GMO, baby, I'm telling you right now. Grab something that's resistant to pests and disease. The only way you know this is if you're sourcing it from a quality source. This kind of routes back to the number 2. You want to make sure you're getting them from a quality source. Someone that's already weaned out disease. Somebody who's already weaned out pests. This is very important. You don't want something that's just weak and unstable. So make sure you got a quality source. That way, you're going to make sure that you've got yourself something that's going to be resilient to pests. This is kind of a no-brainer, but what are you looking for? Do you want autos? Do you want FEMs? Do you want to go the triploid route? What are you doing? Do you want regulars? Like, these are things that you need to consider before you grab your genetics. I learned doing autos that I don't like autos. Autos are not for me. Autos are a giant pain in my ass. Autos are where genetics go to die. But with that being said, there's something for everyone. Find it. Do you want to do autos? Do you want to do regulars? Do you want to do FEMs? These are things to think about. Okay, so try to figure it out before you go about that. Here's something that's even more important, and I saved the last 2. I saved the most 2 important for the last. The second most important one that I think you need to consider is cost. Don't pay an astronomical amount of money for genetics. Now, I'm going to caveat that with an asterisk and say, this is my asterisk, that if you are going to pay a lot of money, it better be for Chill Out OG. No, I'm just kidding. I understand that if you're following a genetic that's going to cost a lot of money, if you're following a genetic, you watched it through the phases, it's somebody that you respect, somebody you look up to, it's a trial phase. Yes, there is a very small percentage of genetics out there that are worth more than they're worth. Okay? I'll admit that. And I consider those to be some of your cup winners. Some of your, for me, I'll pay more. Maybe you won't, but I'll pay more for some Chill Out OG. Shout out to Chris for not making me pay for my Chill Out OG. These are the things that I would pay more for. If I was trying to get that swank genetics, I would pay more for that because it's kind of an exclusive. Now, that's my caveat. That's my asterisk. Now, there's no reason to pay any more than that. $10 a bean is incredibly standard. There's no reason that it should be any more than that. Anything less is fantastic. I understand money needs to be made and people are doing what they do, but $10 a seed is pretty damn standard. And I think that's standard unless it's in and around that $10, man. So cost is very important, very important. Now, with that being said, let's say you got some really cheap genetics, some affordable genetics. It's been tested and all this stuff up here. How do you know that? Because the person, and this is number 1 for me, that source of genetics, if it's not supported by quality people on the upfront, I don't want it. If you have an issue, let's say you bought 10 beans from somebody and all 10 of them turned out to be male, or all 10 of them didn't pop. Now, there's always variables that would make me lead to believe that it was probably the person germinating them that they didn't pop. But I would want support. I want customer support. I want an experience that's going to back up for what I'm paying for it. I'm not just getting the genetic for $10 a bean. I'm also getting the ability to come back, get another quality experience, also look for, I love the idea of freebies. I like the idea of being included in tester groups. I like the idea of just so much more. And so much more is going to happen when you're dealing with either a breeder or a company that cares about their customers. Don't go to somebody who's just overseas with a blank face. They're not going to answer your emails. None of that. Get your genetics from a quality place, because if something happens or whatever, if all goes well, I want you to go back and I want you to have a great experience with whoever it was that sold you those genetics. Okay? I don't care who it was, whether it was a local breeder to a big name. Quality customer service goes a long way. So I want you to consider that when it comes to choosing your genetics and just things you should consider before that. But of course, I want to pass the question up to you. What do you think? What do you think is something to consider before you select your genetics? I want to hear from you.